Hi guys, it's James with BJYJO. I just wanted to show my deck that I played for the UK Open. Unfortunately, I didn't do too well. I ended up 6-3 in the end. One of my losses was kind of unavoidable, probably just deck building mistakes. That's the only way you could really chalk it up. And then my other two losses were to me playing like an absolute spurg, so that's something that can definitely be improved upon. I'm not saying this is the best way to build it, and I'm not saying that it's necessarily even a good build, but it's a decent sort of start for where people might want to pick up the deck, and it's just an idea that people can probably just take to the locals and should hopefully do pretty well with it. So yeah, I'll talk through it as I'm going, but I hate when people do like deck profiles and they just show you and then just like, yep, this is amazing, this is amazing, this is amazing. So I'll try and give like explanations and stuff as to why I played certain cards and what they're meant to achieve and stuff. I mean, the combos are pretty much self-explanatory, but the whole idea that I was going in with this deck was I wasn't really trying to go wide. I was playing as low to the ground as possible, then hand trapping my opponents and hoping that it was enough to get through. Yeah, so basically it's two blue eyes. 3 is too many, 1's not enough. You can slide down to 1 in games 2 and 3, but I'm not necessarily a huge fan of that because with the Bestials, Raws, like Raw can get it back from the bench, but once you've used your Raw, that's, it's gone. I'm not playing like Ultimate Fusion and stuff, so I can't put it back from the grave. So just having access to 2 is really nice. 3 Sage is the best normal in the deck, 1 card starter. The second effect doesn't necessarily come up as much because I'm only playing the Blue Eyes to summon effect. I'm not playing Jet Dragon or anything like that. So it's one of them where just the best normal summon gets you everywhere, that gets you everything that you need. So yeah, you should definitely be playing 3 of that. I'm playing 3 Maiden. Again, it's one of the best tuners in the deck. Obviously it gets you to your True Light, which then obviously gets you full combo. And obviously when it comes back from grave, it helps you playing around Nib, because you can basically just not use it. Go into all your plays, so you start like going into your Spirit Dragon. You can make like a Spirit Dragon and stuff. You can summon 5 times, leave this in grave. And then if they nib you, you can then use like the load or the True Light to summon it back and then just play around it that way. It also has the second effect where if you target it or it's a target for attack, you can summon a tuner or a dragon back. It comes up quite a bit and there's some combo lines where it's actually really good. But yeah, this card's like insane, and usually people will just like Bestial this, and if this gets Bestial, just sort of like you end up like spheres and stuff like that. So it's one of them where it's a bit, I don't necessarily know if it's like bait when people Bestial it, but quite a lot of the time you're not really too arsed anyway, because you can always get your additional normal summon to get another tuner. And yeah, I mean, you don't want to get Bestialed, but it's fine if it does usually. This card is probably the most frustrating card in this deck. It's insane, but it gets ashed like every single time. It barely ever fucking resolves. And because of, well, I'll show you now. I'm only playing like 3 targets for it. Like you never want to use this as a target anyway, so really it's 2. So during your like normal combos, once you've used the first one, the other 2 are dead. But you want to be playing 3 because obviously you want to see it in your opening hand. You want to see it all the time. But then after turn 1, if you've done your combo, they're just shit. It does get itself out of the grave if you go into the either Tyrant or you use it to summon the Neo ultimate. So if the like harpies your True Light and stuff, you can set it from deck to sort of just get it out of the deck, and it's not necessarily going to be a dead draw or whatever. I find that the only, well, I'll go on to these, but I feel like these are like the best 2 targets for it anyway. This card is insane, and you should never side this out. Going first, second, this should always be in your deck, because there's not another target that I'd actually want to play, and I think the closest target to being played would probably be Ultimate Fusion, but I just don't see the point in, I just don't see where it's good. You can play Bingo Machine, but Bingo Machine plays harder into draw, and you're just adding a card that essentially does nothing anyway. So once you've done your combos, this card just becomes dead. So it's like an insane searcher, and then it becomes the worst card in your deck. So it gives you such a conundrum where it's like you need to play 3 because you want to see it, but then once you resolve 1, you never want to see it again. So I've seen some people playing like 1, and I don't quite get that. I wouldn't necessarily say it's bad, but I just don't agree with it. So a lot of the time off wishes, I tend to search this verse if I have a way of getting to my blue eyes, just because then when I'm setting back row, they don't know where the trap is. So I don't know if they're going to snipe it with like a Cosmic or an MST or something, they can't force it out, or a Detonator. But if I don't have a way to summon blue eyes, then you go into this, and you can always True Light set this later. This card is pretty crazy. It's kind of a shame that the graveyard effect isn't during the same turn. But the extra deck lock kind of sucks, but I mean, there's not much in the extra deck that you summoning that isn't a dragon anyway. But this card is crazy. The fact that it can also get you banished blue eyes back as well once they've been bestialed is crazy. But yeah, I don't think there's anything better than these 2 targets. True Light, now this card is absolutely crazy. But I feel like people don't play correctly with it. Like, there are going to be times where you open just Maiden, you have to go to True Light, and then you just get ruined by a Ghost Ogre. But the majority of the time, you should be able to get your True Light on board, and then make a Spirit without triggering your Maiden in grave or activating this. So if you have your Spirit on grave and then the Ghost Ogre this, you use your Spirit to negate the graveyard effect, so you don't lose your board. But yeah, this card's crazy. Like, I feel like this is probably where most of the power lies, because like it's either consistency or every turn you're getting like 2 cards back, and making a 3k guy that can't be targeted, it's insane, to be fair. But yeah, this card's too good, but you never want to play more than 1 of it, because you never want to see it in your opener. You only ever want to summon it off Maiden, well, activate it off Maiden. There are a few times where, like, if you open this plus Maiden and maybe like Wishes, you can obviously Wishes ditch this, and then it gets Ash, and you can Maiden, get this back, and then go for Raw goes, and then you get Maiden, it gets you to a Spirit Dragon, stuff like that. But yeah, this card's crazy good, but you don't want to play more than 1 of it. This card, again, it's one of them. It's insane in the fact that it gets you your extra normal summon, and like, yeah, cool, the Foolish Burial thing's insane, but it's another way. It's probably the only other way apart from Sage and maybe even Drobium, I guess, to target the Maiden to get the special summons. But the amount of times I find where they'll imperm or Veiler your Link 1 and then not get into this sucks for your sort of like first turn play. But the amount of times I'd get this off the Link 1 and then I'd end up ditching it off Wishes or something, just because I have like hand traps in hand, then I'd rather have them, and I can set on my board without this anyway, because once you've got access to Maiden and you can keep getting your blue eyes back, this becomes shit after you've done the 1 dump and then the additional normal summon. My main gripe about this deck really is you don't get to play enough of the blue eyes cards for it to like be good, because obviously you have to be able to keep up with some decks that are just inherently just better than it, like Malice and Ryzeal are just better than this deck. So you don't get to play with like the fun stuff like Master, you don't really get to use like Ultimate Fusion, you don't get to use some of the more iconic like blue eyes cards, like, you know, the Ultimate Creature Destruction, all that stuff. So that'd be my only gripe with this iteration of the deck, that you just don't get to play more blue eyes cards, but you know, like the worst cards in the deck. So so that's all the blue eyes cards. The next engine, which is obviously the best supplemental engine to it, is the Primite stuff. People are playing Invoked, and people are playing Buster Blader. I don't see Invoked being very good. I know it won some like VIP YCS thing at Vegas, but I just don't get why you'd ever play it. If you have access to this, there's no reason why you should ever play Invoked. Obviously, if you don't want to buy these, then fair enough, Invoked's okay. And Buster Blade is just, it's a bit too cheesy, and it clumps your normal summons, so I don't really see it. And I don't know, Buster Blade was cool, and then it just became this like floodgate deck, so I'm not really a huge fan of it. But this card's crazy. The effect on field that isn't the set rarely comes up. Sometimes it does. It's basically you contribute this, send a normal monster. Sometimes you can do that if you want, like if you want to load, and you know, if they get Fluid, for example, you can then tribute this, get the blue eyes into your grave, then you can load, and you don't have to summon from the deck, you can summon from the grave instead. It's very minor, but it'll come up sometimes. But yeah, this card recurring itself every turn, getting your drill beam back is just insane. Like basically having a normal summon that gets bigger with the load, and then being able to recycle this, and just keeps getting you this engine coming back, and it's also a 4, so you can go into your spirit, and your spirit then gets you back into your tuners and stuff once you've already set up. The card's crazy, and I don't see why you'd ever play anything other than this. Obviously, you've got 3 load as well. You want to max out on all this because you want to see them. It's practically your best starter. Yeah, you don't get into your tuners and stuff, but like just off a load alone, you end on spheres with potentially a drill beam, which is just crazy. Like if you open like this plus 4 hand traps, they're not playing through drill beam, this, spheres, and then obviously the hand traps or whatever. And then obviously drill beam. Drill beam's a crazy card. Just the amount, the amount of recursion it has, the fact that it just 1-for-1s gets itself back, can be used on absolutely everything. It's a crazy good like supplemental engine. So that's everything for the engines, and then it's basically down to all the non-engine now. So I'm playing triple talents and a prosperity. This card's really weird because really you never want to do more than 3. But there are games where it becomes easier to do 6, sorry. But this card's just so good. Like you've got so many good like 1-card starters in this deck that drawing in, like seeing another 6 cards on the top of your deck in like addition to your like 5-card starter is just crazy good. And then this card's just insane for like if you ever get punished, like you get nibbed, you get hand trapped, whatever, just looking at their hand, ripping out the starter, and then knowing exactly what line you can take, what line you can't take. Playing accordingly. There was a game that I had against a Fiendsmith Ryziel player where he made a bit of a misplay, but he detonator popped my load, and then I talents to take, and his board was Wave King Caesar detonator, and he chained his detonator to pop itself with an Eclipse Twins under it. So then I took his DDD, and then when he goes Eclipse Twin, I just negated it, and then proceeded to make like a liner and just played through his board. I didn't win that game, but it's Ryziel in it. They just keep pushing back over the top of you, so it's pretty crazy. This card, the draw 2, I barely ever use it unless you've absolutely bricked. There's no reason to do the draw 2. It's always better to look at your opponent's hand and rip whatever's out of it. And then you just, like, knowledge in this game is so important. So knowing exactly what they can do and what you need to stop is just the best use of this card. And obviously, like, being able to take stuff's pretty crazy as well. So that's the non-engine sort of like spell cards, and then it's down to hand traps. So it's triple Ash. Ash is probably the best generic hand trap. It stops like the Fuas. In this deck, it's really good to use on wishes. You can use it on the dragon, but I don't necessarily think you ever do that. I think against this deck, you pretty much hold it for wishes. And yeah, it's just generically good, so I don't really know what else to say. In this deck specifically, Veiler is pretty good. It's searchable. It's also a combo piece because it's a spellcaster. Being a level 1 light tuner as well just means it's crazy good. But the original build that I had before talking to a couple of my mates, actually I only played one of this because it was entirely searchable, and I feel like this becomes worse when people are playing like Book of Moons and like Book of Eclipses and stuff, because nothing feels worse than activating Veiler, going -1, and then they just Book of Moon, flip the Ryziel face down, and then just continue to play, and you've just lost this, and then you get like talents ripped. So that kind of sucks. The more generic stuff. Fua, I just feel like this, if you're not playing this card in your main deck, there's something, like, if you can't afford them anyway, if you can afford them, you should be playing these. It's just the best generically, like, just good card. It plays into every single deck, and at absolute worst, you can discard it with wishes if you draw it going first. There was a game I played against a Ryziel player where my opening hand was double this, imperm, purge, load, and I load Beryl got impermed. I used load to summon spheres, to summon blue eyes and then make spheres, and then I passed with 4 cards in hand, and the idea was that I was going to spheres, bounce back my load, and then I had imperm, purge, and then double Fua in hand. Unfortunately, he drew Cold By, so that didn't go according to plan. But I just thought that was a pretty cool thing. I didn't really want to like place down the imperm either, because it was I'd rather have it in the hand, because like, I guess you could argue it was a mistake, but the only card that play lost to really was was called by. So it's just unfortunate that he drew it when I tried to do it, but like having the stuff in hand just it gives them less information, because you could think they're playing into like 4 monster hand traps, and if you set one, then obviously they know that you've got spell trap, whatever. It's very minor, but it happens. This is just basically probably the best hand trap. Doesn't play into talents. And yeah, it's just insanely good. Like, you can use it going first, you can use it going second. Sometimes it feels a bit less impactful, like when you're against Ryziel and they just keep going and going, because pretty much like one Ryziel summon equates to like a +4. So sometimes it can feel a bit shit, but it's just generically good and it doesn't activate talents. This card's crazy, especially along with the Imperm. Like, Imperm Purge feels a lot like Imperm Faker did. It just feels unfair. Being able to use this on a duo drive, can't be called by. They're not going to cross out it because obviously it's not something they can play in that deck. So yeah, it's just crazy good. I'm a massive fan of this card. I have been since it came out. I was using Invoices originally, but yeah, it's one of them. And then the last hand trap I was playing was it was triple draw, and the main deck's 44. Before adding this in it, I was just going to play 41. And then when I started running it through the calculators and stuff, basically, to add the extra 3 cards in meant that I draw my bricks about 2% and a bit less. But because I had hand traps, I was pretty much guaranteed to always open 2, because I think it's 18. It's 18 hand traps, so I was pretty much guaranteed to draw 2. And when I built the deck, I basically wanted it to always be at least 1 card starter, 2 hand traps, and obviously you've got 2 cards that can be either more hand traps or more engine. The deck did that pretty much every game apart from my round 1 opponent, which it was probably the shittest game ever, but I was playing against the ABC. Game 1, I get to talent look at his hand, rip his only starter after he nibs me, and then I have Drillbeam for his only starter. Game 2, I didn't draw a single starter, but he like couldn't full combo through this and Lancia. And then game 3, I opened Wishes, Majesty, and then 3 hand traps. It got ashed, and then I drawled him, Lancia'd him, and then drew a Judgment for turn, and then just died. So it kind of sucked, and I could have probably normal summoned this, got myself a Blue Eyes out, but I didn't really see that doing anything. But in theory, it's pretty good. I've always got a love-hate relationship with this card, because I feel like sometimes there's hands that you draw it, and they only need to search once anyway. So all you do is open yourself up to a talent. But in the games where it's good, like if Ryziel just start with a bonfire, for example, it's crazy good. But I drew this maybe twice. Once against Blue Eyes player, which stopped him from being able to search anymore. And then against the Ryziel player, but he already had access to Sword, X, and Ice. So the first search that he did was for Node, so he had all 4 names in rotation straight away, so this was literally just a -1. So it was a bit shit in that regard, but I felt like with 7 of Tachyon and stuff, a lot of people would be wanting to play it because it's a new card, and it just, it can kind of shits on that. If they go like -1 with that and then you draw them, like, that's just crazy good. So that was the main. Like I said, it was 44 cards. We'll go to the extra. So I played 3 of the Spirit. Like I said, I was playing low to the ground with this deck, and this just helps you grind so much. Like, the 3rd one came up so many times, but also in the games where you kind of like where you open with like a Prosperity, you can also just like get rid of one of these for it, and then if you've opened with Purge, you can get rid of your Darks as well. So this card's just insane. Turning anything into any of your normal summons, turning into this, then turning into a Blue Eyes, which and then recycle your Maiden that gets you Sync 9. It's crazy good. And then obviously it also baits like the hand trap sound stuff, because if you go normal Sage, it feels really horrible to hand trap that knowing this is then coming next. So even like 1 Sage can trade with 2 hand traps, and that's just crazy value. And then they're unlikely to also then have another hand trap in case you open like Wishes, stuff like that. But this card, you could play it at 2, but I've really enjoyed it at 3. Then the other links are 1 Spheres, because it's a dragon deck. It's basically an M board on its own. I don't play any good targets to summon off it, but being able to like get the barrel out of the deck, because even if they kill it, it comes back to your hand, it's crazy good. And the amount of times I'm using this just to bounce my own stuff back to either continue my engine or play around. Like if I've drawn a Fua or something, I can just empty my board and then Fua them during their turn. It's crazy good. SP. SP is a weird one. It was kind of in there for the Fiendsmith Ryziel match, where if you've broken over the board and you've got like a Maiden and a Tyrant Dragon, you can then make this to banish the Engraver. And then hopefully they don't have any follow-up left. So that's something. I summoned this probably like twice the entire tournament. Well, it's kind of meh. You can probably get rid of it. And then Liner. It's probably the best generic sort of like light-based rank 2 anyway. Link 2, sorry. Because it's... You make it, it searches your engine if it dies. It can bring the detonators back from the grave in the mirror. It can bring Blue Eyes back, which I think can trigger your Maidens. And then obviously you can use it, yeah, I don't know, it's just crazy good. And then obviously later on you can use it to then make your SP as well. So yeah, this card's just crazy good. You can get Engravers out of the graveyard and stuff like that. It's just crazy good. Like, it's probably the best sort of like generic link in here next to Seals, because SP again, it's a bit more niche. You don't really ever go into it. For the Synchros, I played 2 Spirit. I was originally on 3, but I had to cut it down because I wanted to add a couple more extra options, because I found that the way I wanted to play this extra deck, 10 of the cards were essentially 3 cards. And it just felt like I didn't have enough options in the extra. While I do really like this, and it's good against like Fiendsmith, and it's good against like some of the graveyard based decks, the Floodgate effect barely ever comes up. And then the tag out effect, I only actually have 2 targets for it. But I don't know, this card's crazy. Like, Blue Eyes is like one of my favourite decks, and I absolutely love this thing. But yeah, originally I was playing 3 of this and then 2 of this. So the whole idea was that I'd have one of these in case I was getting Bestialed on my turn. So if I made this before I used my Maiden or tried to summon Blue Eyes out, and then they tried to Bestial me, I could tag out, summon the first copy of this, to stop my graveyard from getting banished. Make my second Spirit Dragon. With this on board, then obviously this dies, brings this one back, which can't tag out, but is a graveyard negate. And then the second one of these, during their turn, once it's used its graveyard negate, would then go into another ultimate. And it just traded like so well into stuff. So, I mean, it was cool in theory. It never really came up, but the amount of times like people don't realize that this stops you from getting like banishing your grave, so it stops Bestials, it stops Call By. I got Cycle Reading in one of my matchups at locals a couple of weeks back, and then just summoned this, and it just shits on like stuff like that. So it's crazy good. This is like the main target you summon, and then this one is the fact that this is a common is a travesty, but it's this is basically a Blue Eyes card. I'm surprised that they didn't just call it a Blue Eyes card, to be honest. It's so good. Pops like basically anywhere between 1 and 3 back row, because it's +1. So even on summon, if you don't have any normals, it'll pop. And then obviously it gets you any spell or trap back. A lot of people I noticed were cheating with it, and you can only activate that thing that you set back if you have a normal monster, and they just didn't have normals, and they were just setting back stuff back and then just continuing with their engine and stuff like that. This also has a second sort of use in this deck, because I can make my Spirit Dragon to get this into rotation, and then I can use this to pop a back row, and then if I can normal summon a tuner, especially against like Malice and stuff, it forces out their back row, and then I can go into this. Now, this is crazy good because it gets your, you can special summon a light or a dark, so like if you Blue Eyes or whatever get Bestialed, you can summon them back, which is crazy good. And then also against Malice, you can, when they start banishing, you can shuffle back their dudes, and it prevents them from obviously summoning out. It was quite good. I only summoned it once, and it was against a Malice opponent, but he didn't see it coming. And it was just like the final nail in the coffin, because without, like when he was low on resources, just having that, needing that one name to resolve and then just putting it back in deck was just, it was too much for him to stop. But yeah, this card, I'd suggest you try it out. It's basically, you need either Spirit or Light Dragon, plus a tuner to make it. And it's just, it gets people off guard and people don't expect it. And obviously every turn it survives, it gets you more and more damage, and something this deck, which ironically, it actually struggles with damage sometimes, especially this version of it anyway. So having a 3500 is half the life, so that's pretty good. Go on to fusions. This is solely here for the Wishes Sand. The additional protection is crazy good, and obviously you can either contact fuse or use the raw to go into this. This card in the mirror, whoever gets this first should pretty much win the mirror. This card is so good. I played against a Malice player, I think it was round 6, and I opened no hand traps, they opened full combo, ended on a bow, Griffin, I think it was 4 set back row field spell. My top deck, like my hand was like, I think it was like Wishes, load, Maiden with a Blue Eyes in hand. There might have been a Drill Beam instead of the second load, I can't quite remember. And I topped that Lightning Storm, blew out all their back row, forced all their monsters onto the board, and then when I got the load on board, they let me go for a bunch of stuff, and basically I ended up drill beaming one of the dudes off, and I had 3 ways to summon a Blue Eyes. So they had an SP to banish the Sage that I normal summoned, so I couldn't get into the Link once to be able to summon the Blue Eyes. That's why I had Raw, I had Load, and I managed to get to True Light as well. And then I made this and stopped them from getting a white rabbit on board, so that they weren't protected by battle, and basically just swung over for about 5,000-6,000 damage. And obviously I think I was under the load lock, so I didn't get to set back any of my traps or anything like that, but it just completely dealt with their entire board, left them on 2 cards. And yeah, they just got shot on, really. I didn't think I was winning that game at all. As soon as I looked at my hand, I was like, there's no point in scooping, and then it just turned out that I actually managed to break through and actually win with that. So we go on to XEs. This one is because I'm playing Ultimate Slayer. There's nothing else to say. Yeah, it's just the best Ultimate Slayer XEs target. And then Typhon. This card is crazy good, but I feel like for how good this card is, its win percentage is so low because you can really only summon it when you're losing. And a lot of games where you summon this when you're losing, you still just lose. So it's crazy good, but I think it's crazy good anyway. I've played it in pretty much every deck I've played since it came out, and you have those like situations where, like in Voiceless for example, you can like sort of summon a low, it gets hand trapped. If they've gone into the extra deck, you can sort of like use it, attack over something, and then you can sort of bounce it back and then use like your spells to add your low back and like just start recycling like that. In this deck, it's just another way of trying to out stuff. But I summoned it quite a few times, and every time I summoned it, I actually won that game, so it was pretty good, even though I was in a losing position to begin with. And then the side, that was 3 Bell. I was in a horrible situation where I wanted to play all 9 Mulcharmies, but the only way I could get them to work would be to main Fua and Perulia, and that just feels like bad ego, because there's no way that this deck can deal with that many bricks in deck. You don't have that many discard outs, and it doesn't do anything outside of that. This felt like, I don't know, it was recommended to me, and it's one of them where it's like, it hits the Malice field spell, it hits GWC, so you shouldn't be losing in time. It can hit Eclipse, it can hit, is it White Binder when it tries to banish stuff. It just seemed like a pretty good catch-all, and I don't think many people are expecting it as well, so they don't like sort of think about it when they do the combo lines and stuff. So I thought it was pretty good. And then in the mirror, you've got stuff where you can stop True Light, you can stop Raw, you can stop, I think you can stop Load as well because it summons from grave. So it's got applications in quite a few of the matchups, and then you've got stuff like against Mitsurugi, you can use it on the ritual monster, like bringing itself back and stuff like that. It saves the Ash for something else, but it was okay. I think I sided it in a couple of times, but I don't actually ever think I drew it, so I couldn't really give you a valid sort of explanation on it. This card requires no explanation. You have to respect Malice, so this card is probably one of the best things to stop them from playing. Obviously when the new support comes out, the deck just becomes more aids, and I can't be honest with that, but it is what it is. There's a couple of times, like every time I sided this in, I drew it, and there's a couple of times where I draw it in tandem with another hand trap, or I draw 2 at once, and it kept getting cold byed, and just being able to like chain the other one to stop it. Or like the Malice opponent I had that normal summoned a Chessy Cat, used the effect, I ashed it, they went to core by it, and then chain this to stop it resolving and stop them from doing anything else. It's just filth, to be honest. But yeah, you need to play this while Malice is a deck. Just back row hate. There's nothing more to say. Like sometimes, like especially with Blue Eyes being a deck, like being able to just deal with all the back row at once, it's crazy good. So it's good, and against Malice as well. If you can force out all their back row, they have to use so many effects and they don't get all of the value out of them. So it's just, I think it's, yeah, these are just really good against it. Ultimate Slayer, this was for Ryziel, and it's a bit annoying because I played against Ryziel, I think it was 3 or 4 times, and the only time I drew this, my opponent made the Photon Dragon that protects the detonator from being targeted, so it literally did nothing. So in theory it's insane, but if people are on that Photon Dragon and they're well aware, then, you know, you just sort of, it becomes pretty shit. The only way it's good then is if you draw 2 of it. If you draw 2 of it, like, yeah, you're just good at Yu-Gi-Oh, I guess. But it was like the best sort of catch-all answer. It was between this and Metaltronus, but if I was playing Metaltronus, I'd probably play it in the main, but I feel like I'd had to play, like, change too much of the deck to play Metaltronus, so I decided against it. And then I just wanted a card that can just go in when I'm going first for taking out the Fua for a straight swap. So Judgment just seemed like the best. It was between Judgment and Strike, but I just feel like this helps you not lose to these back row blowouts as much, so you can, like, Judgment something, and then you can use the Ultimate Dragon to stop, like, from any other blowouts. But yeah, it's just a really good card, and it's just it's so strong just to be able to say no to pretty much anything. When I was playing Pure Ryziel the other week, I was playing this and Strike, and just going first with 6 songs in your deck just felt incredible. These cards are just so good. But yeah, that was the list that I took. I was fairly confident, and then I played round 1 against ABC and lose, so that kind of knocked the wind out of my sails a little bit. The deck did what it was meant to do, so that felt good, but unfortunately there was a couple of games that I threw because I'm just bad. And just, I don't know, the deck's fun. It's not on the same level as, like, Ryziel and Malice, I'd say. In theory, the Ryziel matchup should be a bit easier. Like, dealing with the detonator kind of sucks, but the whole idea of the deck is that you just open enough hand traps to stop them, and the fact that you have so many ways to stop them from getting to duo drive, and even if you, like, you ditch Purge, you can, if as long as you've got a trap in the grave, you can, like, destroy the duo drive as well. That's crazy, and it can't get Book of Moon with that, which is really good. The Malice matchup, it's not favoured, but I won both of my Malice matchups after losing the dice roll as well. The first one was a bit unfortunate, the guy just kind of bricked, and then the second one was actually a mate that I've known a long time, and I genuinely didn't think I was going to win. And then just we had that crazy, like, last game, and he was left on, like, 900 life with, like, 2 cards in hand, so he can't really recover from that. But yeah, that was everything. I went 6-3, and I think I came, like, 66th out of 441 people, so I mean, like, it is what it is. It's not like a great score or anything. I wish I did better, but you know, sometimes it just can't be helped. Out of the 3 losses, 2 were probably avoidable, and then one of them was deck building. Like, my deck did what I wanted it to do. It opened a starter, it opened some hand traps, but it just so happened that they had the Ash, and sometimes that's just how the game is. The deck only bricked, like, I think it was once, and it was the game 2 against ABC. So yeah, it's fine. When I was looking at the calculations for it, it's basically, because I think there's 15 1-card starters in 44, works out about 89% chance when going first to see one of them, and then you have a 95% chance to open at least 1 hand trap, and I think it goes down to, like, a 70% chance or something to open 2, so it's still really quite high. And then obviously going second, they sort of increase a little bit, but yeah, that was my deck, my deck profile. I was planning on either playing this or Ryziel, but I just thought I wanted to take this and sort of play. I was also thinking of playing Branded as well, and it just so happened that the guy that came, well, he didn't come second, but the guy that was in the finals that lost, he was on Branded, and that's sort of, like, reignited a bit of a love for the deck again, so I might actually have to try that. Again, just waiting on, obviously, like, a ban list and stuff. I might be going to Manchester at the end of the month. I've not decided yet, and then I don't know if there's any other regionals that have been announced yet. But yeah, that's everything. So yeah, cheers for watching. Hopefully it helped, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.